भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयामदेवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. This Mundaka Upanishad has 3 Mundakas. In each Mundaka there are 2 khandas. And we began the study of the 3rd Mundaka, first khanda, and to make just a few statements on the mantras that we have so far seen up to the 7th mantra. The khanda began with a bang, describing in 3 verses the metaphor of 2 birds on the same tree. Then it went on to say, the truthful alone will win in this long battle for regaining one's own pure self. And then it was that in the 7th mantra, in the last class, which was the 42nd class, we saw the Shruti, that is the Vedic portion, the Upanishad, showing to us, pointing out to us once more the nature of the Supreme Truth, knowing which we get liberated. It is subtler than the subtlest, it is far in some way, and it is extremely near in another way. Nothing can be farther than that from an angle of view, and nothing can be nearer than that from another angle of view. In simpler terms, if our mind is pure, we shall discover that this pure self is the nearest. In fact, it's our own true nature. If our mind is impure, we will be looking for this pure self, the Atma, and it seems to be simply beyond our reach. Now we continue, and Acharya Shankara helps us connect to the next mantra, Punarapi asadharanam tadupalabdhi sadhanam uchyate. Once again, Punarapi, the Shruti, tells us a way to get this Atma. And the word used in the next mantra is Jnana Prasada. Jnana Prasada. When our understanding is conducive, when our state of consciousness, when our state of awareness, then, or that awareness is not clouded, is not polluted. We are going to see Adi Shankara explaining it in a beautiful way, inspiring appropriate sadhana on our part. Jnana Prasada. When there is a conducive mental environment, right understanding dawns upon us, and that then prasada blesses us with this gaining of the pure self. The pure self is ever gained technically, but we do not know that it is already ours. We are already that. So, this business of gaining it, attaining it, getting it, upalabdhi, is no other than just um, realizing that we are that already. I hope. Let's read the mantra then. Na chakshusha gृह्यते नापि वाचा नान्यैर्देवैस्तपसा कर्मणा वा ज्ञानप्रसादेन विशुद्धसत्त्वः ततस्तु तं पश्यते निष्कलं ध्यायमानः. Chakshusha literally means eyes, but the mantra uses the expression chakshusha to imply all the jnanendriyas: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Shrotram chakshuhu sparshanancha rasanam ghranam as chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita says. Na chakshusha grihyate. Some of you surely remember how in the very early portion of this Mundaka Upanishad, the teacher, Rishi Angiraha, he said to the student Shaunaka, Yat tadagrahyam adreshyam grahyam dreshyam. So adreshyam, which in modern Sanskrit is adrishyam, is same as na chakshusha grihyate. Not visible to eyes, extending the meaning, not audible to the ears, not perceptible to the skin, and so on. And very much like yattadadreshyam agrahyam. Grahya literally is holding something with hand, and here it is said napi vacha, another karmendriya is taken to represent the 5 karmendriyas: hands, legs, speech, genitals, and excretory organs. So, one is mentioned vacha, by speech, but speech is one of the 5 karmendriyas. Na anyaihi devaihi, not by any other faculties, if there were to be. Then tapasa, by the ordinary tapas, which is of the nature of simple concentration, this is not to be this is not to be attained. That is a stepping stone. Elsewhere, tapaha is ekagrata was said. Here, tapaha is on a higher plane. Having made the mind well focused or able to concentrate, we have to go for what is called jnanamayam tapaha, where we stay in continuous contemplation, beholding the truth as the Shastra has let us know. So one is a general bringing back the mind from distractions, another is placing it on a higher plane of beholding the truth. Here that is meant. That is, the lower tapas is dismissed, na tapasa karmanava. Oh. Okay, this is a little bit differently. So what is dismissed is even lower forms of tapas. That is language issue. When you have a word, that word may have meanings at different levels. So tapas of the kind of fasting, of the kind of causing some other hardship to ourselves, that goes with na. But ekagrata, and what I said before is not totally invalid. I first said ekagrata is not the means here, the real means, but it is by context ekagrata on Atma Chintana. Then it is the means. But if it is Tapas in the sense of mere abstaining from food and drink and comforts, etc., that is a much lower practice. By that, Atma na grahyate. Ekagrata rupena tapasa tatrapi atmavastuni chintane ekagrata rupa tapasa grahyate eva. If we are able to collect our thoughts and having studied the scriptures, if we are able to focus on the right vision of the pure self, by that it is very much attainable. Otherwise, just a little while ago, we would not have said, the Rishi would not have said, Satyena labhyaha tapasa hesha atma. So, by the higher, let me sum it up, by the higher kind of tapas, which is intense contemplation with all clarity about what the self is. By that tapas, labhyaha, it's obtainable. But the lower kind of tapas, which is some kind of hardship to the body, standing in the hot sun, maybe on just one leg, and repeating some mantra thousands of times, causing very many kinds of discomforts, as even Bhajagovindam describes. Agre vannihi, prishte bhanuhu, fire in front, and the hot sun up in the sky burning our back. So, fire in front, fire on the back, that is lower kind of tapas. Tena tapasa na grihyate. Karmanava. Rituals are not per se criticized in the Vedanta, but if anyone proposes that karma kanda, rituals, varieties of karma and upasana are the means to the higher self-realization, na, na karmana va. They may get swarga to us. They may get long life to us. They may destroy our enemies. They may bless us with good voice, Brahmavarchas, that is a certain shine upon the face. They may bless us with wonderful memory, wonderful skills and talents. They may make us a very famous person. But all that put together also is not Brahma Prapti. For gaining Brahman, na karmana. Then what is the means? Jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha. Even as there is more and more clarity on what this pure self after all is, that jnana blesses us and we become vishuddha sattvaha, someone of very pure antakarana. Mana buddhi chitta ahankara together are called antakarana, inner instrument. That is vishuddha, visheshena shuddha. Tam pashyate nishkalam dhyayamanaha. Then you and I, seekers, will see. Tam pashyate, third person, referring to some sadhaka. But you and I are the sadhakas in this context. As we meditate, dhyayamanaha, as we have increased the contemplation, then we will be able to see or behold this pure self. Now, Adi Shankara explains it pretty much. It is what was said in other ways before. So he adopts a few newer expressions which may help some students. Na chakshusha grahyate kenachidapi. Why? Arupatvat. If something has a form, if something has a color, then yes, we could propose. Let's see it with our eyes. Eyes can never perceive something which has neither a form nor a color. Na rupam, na varnaha. That way, other indriyas also. If the Atma had sound with it, ears would have heard. The Atma had a taste about it, the tongue would have tasted, and so on. Napi grahyate vacha anabhideyatvat. The karmendriya called speech cannot hold it by way of describing. If some scholar comes and describes something, then we praise him. You let us know, you helped us know what it is. Because through his or her effective speech, he or she made everybody understand what the whole thing is, information. But this is na abhideya. Abhideya is what can be defined, what can be named, what can be identified. That is how in all the Upanishads, the Indriyas, both Jnanendriya and Karmendriya, have been mentioned as utterly incapable of getting us this Atma Jnana. So, Anyehi Devaihi Itara Indriyaihi. So, Itara Indriya means when you take Chakshusha and Vacha independently, the other four Jnanendriyas, other four Karmendriyas. Otherwise, we look at this would become superfluous. Anyway, we already said eyes themselves represent all the five. So this is to emphasize that yes, we do mean when we say eyes, we do mean all the other Jnanendriyas also. The Shruti comes forward to reiterate that what we call implied upalakshana sense. Tapasaha sarva prapti sadhanatve api. Though tapas is the way to get practically anything and everything. In the Puranic stories, we find Rakshasas, demons, or others also performing tapas, and they become invincible. They cannot be killed by weapons, they cannot be killed by any man, any deva, yaksha, kinnara. They cannot be killed even by any animal, and so on. I'm referring to an example as we find with Hiranyakashipu. He did tapas, but then Lord Vishnu came as Narasimha and finished him. Sarva prapti sadhanatve api tapasa na grihyate. Same way karmana, tata vaidikena karmana, agnihotradi karmana. Agnihotra is the simplest example for Vaidika karma. Prasiddha mahatvena api. Their mahatva, their greatness, their glory, their efficacy is prasiddha, is very well known. And yet, api, even then, na grihyate, because all of them have a certain domain. In their domain, yes, they are okay. But this Atma Jnana falls outside their domain. Kim punastasya grahane sadhanam. Then what on earth, what under the sun is the means to gain purest self-knowledge? The answer is Jnana Prasada. What is Jnana Prasada? This is where I said a while ago, Adi Shankara does a wonderful job of giving us greater insight how we may come upon Jnana Prasada. Atma avabodhana samarthamapi sarva praninam jnanam. Jnanam here, when it is said, it is capable of Atma Jnana, but today, right now, it is not delivering the goods. The reference is not to the pure consciousness, which is ever free, which is ever without any dirt. The reference is to the antakarana vritti. It is antakarana which, upon gaining the higher self-knowledge, reflects that. Though it doesn't objectify, but it has a unique vritti about this self-knowledge. They call it akandakara vritti and so on. Therefore, they say some technical words are used in texts like Panchadashi or Vedanta Sara. In the case of Brahmajnana, there is vritti vyapti but no phala vyapti. and so on. A corresponding thought form arises, accompanies the liberating understanding, but you can never say the antakarana can objectify the highest truth, which it can when it comes to pots or flowers or some limited objects. So, without going into that technicality of phala vyapti, vritti vyapti, etc., Shankaracharya here says, Sarva praninam jnanam, our antakarana vritti. Vritti is a thought or a thought form. The thought form which operates in our mind or which makes our mind really is presently so occupied with sense objects, with Maharshi Ramana would say, so occupied with a notion of who I am. So clinging to a notion of who I am, it becomes an obstacle. It prevents the understanding of the unlimited I. Holding on to the limited sense of I, the unlimited I is made a stranger to us, though it is our own true nature. Imagine a son becoming a stranger to his own father, a brother becoming a stranger to his own brother. Imagine somebody unable to recognize his own sister. A terrible state of affairs. Like that, when our mind is so stuck with this, I am the CEO of that company, I am a financial loser, the pandemic has broken my backbone. In this way, we describe ourselves in a particular way, day and night, whether somebody asks us or not, we hold on to some notion of our own identity. Then how can purest self-knowledge ever reach us? Atma avabodhana samarthamapi swabhavena. Why is it swabhava? Why is it said? That is, the way we find it universally among all people is it is found to have desire, anger, regret, hurt, pride, tendency to dominate, tendency to get dominated, to exploit, or allowing oneself to be exploited. So many psychological aberrations, psychological distortions are all found in the Santakarana. That is generally the Swabhava. Some people have a Swabhava of, of trying to control everybody. Some others have a Swabhava of withdrawing and keeping away from people. Some people have a Swabhava of looking for money everywhere, right? Swabhava. So, by itself, if it were not mixed with all these undesirable thoughts, Antakarana is capable, Atma avabodhana samartham. But Swabhavena Bahya Vishaya Ragadi Dosha Kalushitam, Raga, Dvesha, Bhaya, Icha, all these make our Antakarana polluted. Aprasannam, Ashuddham Sat, being not cheerful, being impure, na avabodhayati. Our antakarana does not get that intuitive understanding of the pure self. Nityam sannihitam api. This is a tragic joke. Though the pure self is ever with us, is our own nature. Atmatattvam mala avanadhamiva adarsham vilulitamiva salilam. Compassionate Bhashyakara gives two illustrations. If there is a mirror and dust has sat upon it, and if there is some water in a pond, that is vilulitam, that is shaking, lolana is show shaking. A commentator on Shānkara Bhāshya rightly says, The dust upon the mirror is an example of what is called mala. And the shaking of water is what is called vikshepa. Mala is something stationary. You and I have numerous false notions which are so rigid, they don't spare us. Vikshepa is moving. Vikshepa is when we hear something, we get agitated. We see something, we get agitated. Or our eyes are closed, we are sitting alone in a room, memory brings to us some picture. Then the mind runs away. So, mind in movement, dragging us here and there, is vikshepa. But the mind steadily holding on to certain wrong notions is mala, dirt and distraction. Mala and vikshepa are described as the major obstacles for purification of mind. Mala is removed by nishkama karma, vikshepa is removed by upasana. When there is no vikshepa, no distraction, what comes about is wonderful concentration. Ekagrata upasanasya phalam bhavati, shuddhihi malarahityam karmanaha phalam bhavati. Tada atadyada indriya vishaya samsarga janita ragadi mala kalushya apanayanat. When this dirt or these distractions are removed, Adarsha Saliladivat Prasaditam, made pure. Prasaditam is a causal form. To become pure is prasidati. But to make someone pure, someone cheerful, to make someone pleasant is prasadayati. So, when we do karma and upasana, mind becomes prasanna, very swachha, shantam, tadajnanasya prasadaha syat. Then antakarana is so conducive for getting that liberating insight. Tena jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha. Vishuddha sattvaha is the word from the mantra. Vishuddha antakaranaha yogyaha bhavati brahma drashtum, to see Brahma, in a manner of saying. Brahma can never be seen other than ourselves. We are that supreme truth. Yasmat tataha, tatastu tam atmanam is in the mantra. Tataha, tasma, therefore, tu, in this way, tam atmanam pashyate. In Paninian Sanskrit, it should be pashyati. The grammar goes, drish is a parasmaipadi dhatu. So pashyate is Vedic usage. Nishkalam sarva avayava bheda varjitam dhyayamanaha. So meditating upon the truth which has no limbs, no parts, no divisions, and in order that someone is able to meditate, one must have stayed on the path of truth. Satyadi sadhanavan. Upasamhrita karanaha. Withdrawing his or her instruments of perception or action. Ekagrena manasa dhyayamanaha chintayan. So in this way, Adi Shankara puts a few inputs, makes a few inputs whereby the path of sadhana becomes all the more clear. Through nishkama karma and upasana, we prepare the mind, and that prepared mind, by study, by chintana, by dhyana, gets liberated. Now, this khanda, third Mundaka, first khanda, has two more mantras. Yesho nuratma chetasa veditavyaha yasmin pranaha panchadha samvivesha pranaishchittam sarvamotam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhavatyesha atma. And concluding, yam yam lokam manasa samvibhati vishuddha sattva kamayate yanscha kaman tam tam lokam jayate tanscha kaman tasmad atmajnam hyarchayet bhuti kamaha. Yeshaha anuhu atma. It is so subtle, especially when we realize it cannot be perceived by any sense organs. Therefore, the only way out is one has to know through an intuitive mind. The ordinary operation of our mind cannot know the pure self. Ordinarily, the mind operates necessarily having knower and the known as two different things. But intuitive mode, as helped by Vedanta Adhyayana, helps the same mind to see a truth which has no divisions. Yasmin prana, the five pranas, pranapana, etc., operate, they play their game in this awareness. And along with the pranas, chittam, the so-called mind, antakarana also, is pervaded, sarvam otam prajanam. In all our faculties, inner organs, gross or subtle, the pure self is pervasive. And yasmin vishuddhe, when this chitta is pure, then atma vibhavati. The atma becomes that, bhavati means becomes, but vibhavati means vishesha rupena. That means in such a way where you cannot miss it. Presently, the Atma is in you, but you are missing it all the time. Vibhavati is Visheshena Bhavati Prakashayati Ityartha. Acharya Shankara writes, Yamatmanam evam pashyati eshanu sukshmaha atma chetasa. Vishuddha jnanena is the meaning. With the purest knowledge, not conceptual knowledge, not some ideas, not just translating from this word to another word, not simply quoting this mantra and that shloka, not simply citing even the lines of Shānkara Bhāshya or some Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Ashtavakra Gita or Mandukya Karika, simply quoting some texts or portions which may be uh, considered of high level by scholars. What is important here is, do you have clarity? Then it is Vishuddha Jnana. You have fallen in love with words, you have fallen in love with Sanskrit, you have fallen in love with poetry, you have fallen in love with some kind of posing. You pose as a Vedanta scholar, all that will not help. Vishuddha Jnana is the meaning of Chetasa, pure insight. There is no urge to impress somebody. There is no urge to write a bestseller book. There is no urge to prove to somebody who we are. All that is a deviation. Pure knowledge. Then the rest of it happens the way God wants it. Qua asau, where is this pure self? Yasmin, in this very body. Pranaha, pranapadi bhedena. संविवेश सम्यक प्रविशिष्टः प्रविशिष्टः or pravishta. Samvivesha, wish is to enter. The pure self has entered. That's what in the Taittiriya there is a famous Shruti. Tat srashtva tadevanu pravishat. The Supreme Brahman created this universe and entered into every nook and corner, every bit of this created universe. Tat srashtva tat eva anupravishat. Pravesh, entered. So the Upanishads do have some common ground. We find they strengthening the revelations made by each other. Tasminneva sharire hridaye chetasadneha ityartha. So we have to understand the presence of the pure self right within us. In other words, I am. Stay as I am. Maharshi Ramana once said, more than any other mantras, Ashtakshari, Panchakshari, Dwadashakshari and Shodashakshari and so many mantras, old and new, Vedic and non-Vedic. Sri Ram Jai Ram is a non-Vedic mantra. Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namah Shivaya are Vedic mantras. From the Veda or from the Puranas, from some saint, from wherever. There are so many mantras. Maharshi said, the best mantra is repeat I. In your own language, need not be English. Repeat the word in your language, chosen language, which stands for I. Go on repeating it. And as you repeat it, feel that I. Go to the inner essence of that I, not the external packaging. He said that can lead you to a great understanding of who you truly are. And what is meant by Chetasadneyaha, or by what kind of mind? Pranai saha indrehi chittam prajanam otam. You see, it is that antakarana in which Brahma is always pervading. Kshiram snehena, just as oil or butter is in milk in every drop. So you change the milk into yogurt, into curd, then churn, then you get butter out. The butter was present in a potential form in every drop of milk. Kastamiva agnina, there is fire in every bit of a log of wood. When you set that log of wood on fire at one end, very soon the whole log of wood is burning. So, just as wood is pervaded by heat, just as milk is pervaded by butter, in that way you have Brahman pervading your entire being. Sarvaham hi prajanam antakaranam chetanavat prasiddham loke. How do we know? It is prasiddha, it is so well known. Any living being, above all, is pervaded by the sense of life. Life pulsates even in a bacteria, even in a little mouse, even in a little butterfly. There is life. The truth of life is this Brahman that we are talking about. Yasminscha chitte ksheshadi malavyukte shuddhe bhavati. So Vishuddhe is explained. Yasmin Vishuddhe. When the antakarana, when chitta becomes pure, then eshaha. We must again and again see which word is picked up. In the mantra you have esha atma. Eshaha ukta atma. This atma which has been talked about, then visheshena svena atmana bhavati. Atmanam prakashayati. It reveals itself. As another mantra had said, Yame Vaishavranute Tena Labhyaha. In Kathopanishad, we have that revelation. If you single-pointedly seek the purest truth, that purest truth would reveal to you her own nature, its own nature, whatever gender you attach. And explaining the 10th and the last mantra, first of all, giving a sambandha connection, Acharya Shankara says, Ya evam ukta lakshanam sarvatmanam atmatvena pratipannaha. If someone realizes the supreme, all-pervasive self, tasya sarvatmattvadeva, once he knows that is his true nature, he feels he is in all. And he then gets all. Upanishads are not about miracles, but in such mantras as the last mantra of this khanda, it is said, miracles for a lady or man of enlightenment is like a side product. That is not the main part of what he has achieved, but miracles would be as though lying at his feet. All the miracles, all accomplishments are at his feet. Whatever he wants. If he wants, he can get anything, he can go anywhere, he can do anything. That's what is said as there is a greater and greater purity of mind, everything becomes attainable. If someone, leave alone the enlightened person, this person of advanced upasana, Vishuddha Sattvaha, a person of tremendous purity of mind, Manasa Samvibhati, thinks of heaven, he can go to heaven. And thinks of some desirable object, Kamayate, then she or he gets that object of pleasure, object of enjoyment. And so, if one is wise, someone who has risen to a high level of purity, rather than thinking of Sargaloka or a wonderful house or a car or some such thing, wisest thing for someone who has arrived at a high level of purity is to adore those who have gone above the mind. You have attained high purity of mind, then adore a Siddha, the highest Siddha, who has gone beyond the mind, who knows the pure truth which is not limited by the mind. And above the mind is nothing but Atma. The last line is the punch line, Atmajnam archayet bhuti kamaha. Anyone who wants his ultimate bhuti is progress or bhuti is well-being. You want your ultimate well-being, then adore. Always have in your mind, worship more and more the enlightened masters or enlightened ladies, enlightened men. Always be in touch with them. Acharya Shankara says, as the mind becomes pure, it is not a big thing to get Pitradi Lakshanam Lokam. Pitraloka, Devaloka, some other loka, so many realms where souls hang out, can be attained, he says. Samvibhati, Sankalpayati. For himself, Mahyam Anyasmaiva. Who is that? Who can get it? You don't have to go to the level of enlightenment. Vishuddha Sattvaha, Kshina Kleshaha, Atmavit. That is, who has now glimpses, who has some rough idea of the Atma, is going to a great height. Nirmal Antakarana. And Bhogan Kamayate, all simple. And Prapnoti, he gets all those enjoyments. But this Vidwan, this person who is so advanced, should stop trading his purity for finite things of the world. If she has come this high, to this extent of purity, now, as the English idiom goes, hitch your wagon to a star. As the star moves, your wagon will be moving as guided by the star. Hitch your wagon to a star. Now hitch your purified mind to enlightened beings. That is where your ultimate bhuti, that is vaibhava, vibhuti, is. Archayet, pujayet, pada prakshalana shushrusha namaskara adibihi. In our Hindu tradition, this Indian cultural tradition, showing respect has at times taken the form of even washing the feet of a guru, serving her in various ways, saluting her, of course, etc. Bhuti kama means vibhutim ichuhu, one who seeks one's own true growth. Growth reaching that level where the very idea of growth is redundant. It is the Swatasiddha, ever present reality. I will comment, I'll make one comment before concluding. There was a controversy a few years ago. A very renowned Vedanta scholar, but very orthodox in his outlooks, made a statement. It became reported in all the media. He said, you should not worship Satya Sai Baba, Shirdi Sai Baba, and all these Babajis. That is not that's not approved by Vedas, he said. He was a great Vedic scholar. We respect him otherwise. But I personally, when somebody asked me, said, "Oh, I don't know so much Vedas as he does, but it doesn't seem to be in good taste. It seems to be a little bit of ultra orthodox view, like you have this caste, Brahmin, Kshatriya, or you have some views where women are looked down at, etc. Those views are still around in the world. We call them very orthodox views. But otherwise, in modern times, if we use our common sense, it seems that some of those views are not tenable anymore, not valid anymore. Maybe they had some relevance at some ancient time. So, coming to this, that statement by that Vedic scholar did not go well with me. I remembered this line Archayed Atmadnam Bhuti Kamaha. So Shirdi Sai, Satya Sai, and many other Babajis or some enlightened, people believe they are enlightened and they were not ordinary at all. And they were, Satya Sai is believed by his devotees as God Himself incarnate, avatar of Bhagavan Himself. So, can we worship people who are of very high spiritual eminence? As far as this line goes, Atmadnam Archayet. We may worship, we may adore, we may sing praise of her or him, Anandamayima, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and so on. So, I personally don't think Vedas object to our worshipping Sri Ramakrishna. स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय Ramakrishnaaya te namaha. Vivekananda composed that shloka and sang in praise of Sri Ramakrishna. And millions do that today. They worship Sri Ramakrishna. And to me it seems that is well in line with this Atmadnam Archayed Bhutikamaha, and Mundaka Upanishad is Veda, part of Veda. But that very, very learned scholar might have kept some other Vedic mantras in mind, so we don't know. We, with due respect, we say, thank you for saying that, but we believe this way. Please allow us to adore enlightened beings. If we find a picture of Anandamayima, we would fall flat, prostrate, do namaskar. And if there is an archana going on, we will join and we will also offer some flowers. So with Shirdi Sai Baba, Satya Sai Baba, and so on. Anyway, that was just a side remark because this line had a connection with that sort of controversy that was going around in the media, in WhatsApp, and so on. Om Namah Paramarashibhyo, Namah Paramarashibhyaha.